Hi there. Welcome to another Wolfram Language Design Review. We're following up on previous reviews about modern package format. Boy, we got acronyms coming out here. We've got MPF and NPF and so on. All right, let's take a look at what we've got here.
Okay. So, a quick summary of the modern package format as I have it now. We have basically three special symbolic expressions: package export, package scope, package import. There's one function that loads package files called package load. That's the thing that essentially activates those things.
Okay, but the thing that we had addressed last time was the fact that there's basically double reading of files, and I did not like the idea of having things that look like Wolfram language syntax but are not read by the standard Wolfram language reader. Right?
Right. And we'll get to that. That's the first bullet under drawbacks, right? So, right, we have a two-pass reading, and these
Yeah.
I'll call them declarations. They are read in the second pass, but they are read in the first pass, and that's where they do
Okay.
their important stuff.
Right. So I'm
And
just saying they have to be indicated as being a different kind of thing than things which are just read in the main Wolfram language read. And I had suggested last time comments, you had reasons why you didn't like that, and maybe you're right if they're read again in the second pass, that's a reason that one shouldn't like that. But there's got to be some indication that they are read differently as far as the parser is concerned.
right, okay. So let's just look at that's your first objection here, that these are not normal functions, all right? They don't behave exactly like normal functions because they're read in the first pass. The first
Yeah,
pass
I
is
know, all
all
of
right.
this. I know all
Okay.
this. So can
Okay.
we get a solution? What's your proposed
It
solution?
seemed to me that your objection to this was primarily practical, that if people use these things incorrectly, it won't work. And, as opposed to
And
sort of,
conceptual. I
right,
really think it's important that, people not think that these are functions. They will just get confused. They need to understand that there's two passes.
right? But needing to understand there's two passes, I
No,
think, is a
we need a way to indicate that
documentation
these are
issue.
not ordinary functions. Okay? So maybe
So
there's something special about their name, but I would
fine.
prefer that there's something syntactically special about them.
Okay. So you're saying then that, I mean, my solution to this is that if people use them
No,
incorrectly,
that's not
we can
an
issue a
adequate solution.
message.
Generate an error message is not an adequate solution. It's got to be clear that this is a macro-like thing that is read separately. Okay, so we talked last time, and I hoped you'd make more progress on this. You know,
We haven't even seen, haven't seen the other part of my presentation.
okay, well,
That,
okay,
that
fine. So if this is moot for some reason, then then let's move on. But I'm telling you, this as such needs some way of indicating that this is going to be read as in some kind of macro pass at the beginning.
all right.
Stephen, can I an observation? Like if you try to do what Todd is doing with package export map of bar with hold, for example, hold doesn't have
Okay,
any
listen. I
specific.
don't really want to talk about this further. We talked about this for half an hour before. My opinion is not going to change. So let's not try and pick at this again. Okay, this will not work to not have some indication that this is a separate kind of reading. Period. End of story.
Should that thing still be valid Wolfram language syntax or not?
Don't know.
Well, tell you
Because
what, let's get.
if it isn't,
No,
then we
it
don't
doesn't need
have
to be.
tools. If it is, we have tools for writing packages automatically, for example. And if it's hidden in a context or in something non-syntactical, this all will not work. I mean, currently we have begin package, begin end package. Theoretically, these can be hidden somewhere inside, but in practice, they're always at the top level,
Yeah,
and
okay,
there's
fine.
absolutely no problem with that.
Okay. This is not being read by the standard reader. I gave you the alternative of indicating it in the name somehow. That is an acceptable alternative. That does not change.
I don't understand why you say that. They're like Todd has written.
We
all
do
of
not
this in
want to
top
argue
level
about this
code,
any
so it's
further.
not true.
Okay, we gotta not talk about this any further. Okay, we need a solution. We defined what kind of solution we can have. Let's not talk about this any further. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going here. Another objection you had was that this thing doesn't work for single file packages, right? And the problem there is that, package load is the function that activates these things. If that's not called, then package export doesn't do anything. So we need a way in a single file package where there's no call to package load. We need a way to tell the system to go and do the 2-pass reading.
Yeah, right. Which I suggested doing with comments, which you didn't like for some reason, which you're going to have to explain to me.
We're getting to that.
Okay, all right. So show me the improvement thing. Come on, let's hurry it up.
Stephen, we're moving.
Okay, quick. Yep. Okay.
So look, one possible way is to have another special declaration thing as the first expression in the file, or in the notebook cell, for example, or something, right? That is some sort of, that's just what the new package format did, right? With their package thing, which had to be the first thing in the file. So we could say, look, we have to have a first thing, call it, I don't care, package define or something like that. It might look like this.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Something that changes the reader should not be syntax. Okay.
All right. That's right. So that's
all I have to say. Something which changes the way the reading is done cannot be ordinary syntax. If it's a comment, we don't have to worry about the tools, right? That is what I would favor. That's what people have done for millions of years in millions of environments, is to use comments for this.
But mostly languages that are not expressed within themselves, right?
Yeah, but this is the problem. We're not expressing this. This is a 2-pass read. So the thing there isn't a way to write the things that anyway, let's see this proposal.
Right. So one proposal, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a lot of love for this idea of using comments among the team. But here's an example of how it could. You have some special stylized comment. And
well, you can't have stuff out of the comment. I mean, everything that's being done in the alternative read has to be in the comment.
Well, it could be in the comment. I just think it's actually cleaner to make these things as sort of annotations on the expression that follows.
I don't think that will work. That was not what I had in mind. It's either in the comment or it's not in the comment. It's either all in the comment or it's not.
It could be something like, it could be something like this, right? Right. It could be something.
Whatever. Something. Yes.
Right. I have, experimented with both of those things. I just thought it was a little cleaner to have it outside.
It's not, because you guys, just, okay, we have a language, it has a parser. The things we're doing here are outside of the domain of that parser, okay? We cannot have them look like they're going to be read by the same parser.
Well, I don't think that objection applies to this, whether we put the entire thing inside the comment or not.
Why?
Well, because it's
it's
true
not going to
that
be read by the same parser, is it? That package public thing is read by the pre-parser.
Right. Either way, it's read by the free parser. I don't need to put everything into the comment. You can put. No,
I'm aware that you could implement it not to need to do that, but I don't think it's the right thing to do. Because in the second pass, you're not going to read that thing again, are you?
Well, it's the case that it's kind of redundant to have the second foo here, right? Because if in your style, it's true that this makes the symbol foo. You probably have some definition of foo to follow this, right? And so you wouldn't really need to have this symbol declared.
Well, you shouldn't have it there. You absolutely shouldn't have it there. It should be only in the comment that's read by the pre-reader.
All right.
After the pre-reader is done, then the comment is ignored and it goes through and does what it does with the rest of the file.
All right, things are a little different for package. Sorry, Carl, you had something you wanted to go in? Was that Carlo who jumped in there?
Yeah,
Keep
what I
going.
was trying to say is that this I don't think this thing about the parser is true. It just not evaluating, but it's read by the normal parser. It's just
It's not.
held
It's
for
read
a
by the
while.
pre-parser.
You extract symbolic information. What I really dislike about using comments is that you're breaking one of the things I like best about the language, in that everything is an expression, whether it evaluates or not. Everything is symbolically expressed by the same M
Okay,
expression.
how do you
And I think that's
indicate?
great.
Wait a second. Look, how do you indicate that this piece of the file is read by the pre-reader? That's what I need
It
to know.
doesn't matter. The
Yes,
point
it
is
does
that
matter. Yes, it does.
Can you let me express this thought for a second? The way my mental model of this is that all these symbols, package public, whatever, they don't have any attached definition to them. They're like tags. They're like formal symbols. You parse the file with the normal parser. You don't evaluate it. You extract with cases, with whatever, the symbolic information, and then you put the kernel in a state that can evaluate the file. So there is this first pass thing that all it does is extracting this stuff. That's all it does. It doesn't let anything evaluate, but everything is still expressed symbolically.
It needs an indication of what will be read by the pre-reader and what will not be. It needs that indication.
We have plenty of precedents in the language. Things like module don't work like normal functions. If you map module on something, it doesn't do what you expect it to do because it's lexical. And here it's the same thing. The same goes with hold. Hold doesn't hold unless it actually wraps something. It doesn't hold if you map it. It's too.
But this is not the same thing. I mean, it's. Let me think about this for a second. It's not a good idea. I mean, look, maybe the right compromise is some annotation to the names. Did you understand what I'm saying? Anybody here?
Yeah, like
So
for
for
example,
example, that. For
That's the
example,
last thing in the list here of alternatives, stylized names. And I don't really think that buys us very much, but other than, I mean, if it's a practical concern that people will get.
okay, so let me make a suggestion. We do that and we have something, a ligature that formats that in some special way. Do you understand what I'm saying? Did I lose you guys? Hello, can anybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I mean, okay.
People are thinking.
Wait a second. Is
Okay.
Todd here or not? Todd, are you here?
He's still sharing, so oops.
Oh, something happened to Todd.
He dropped.
Yeah. Now, just about the ligature. I mean, that's certainly a fine idea, except that packages are usually written in a text editor that doesn't support these fancy characters. But still, if you write them in a notebook, then you would still see them. So no problem there.
Still, what if we went in a completely different direction and made the first pass like an explicit thing that returns something, so that you can explicitly use it to
Do we have
try
that notebook,
and
please? Do we have that notebook? Somebody, do we have that notebook?
I don't have it. I think that this is Todd's notebook that he worked on, so I don't think he shared it.
Who's project managing here? Can you reach out to Todd to see if you can figure out what happened?
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm sending messages to him.
I'm rocket
Okay,
chatting
I'm
him
sorry,
as well.
but
Yeah.
back up. What?
Roman and Carlo, can you repeat the last thing you said?
So
So what I was trying to say is that I would really like this first pass to be like an explicit function, then that one can use to basically reason about code, and that would return something that expresses like what the declaration inside this package are without evaluating anything. Like,
Sure. I mean, if
a
you feed there's a function, you feed it the file, it will answer that question, right?
yeah. So that, so the mental model is
But
not.
that's a different
these are
thing. That's a function from the outside,
Hey, I'm back.
package load or something like this.
Yeah, package
Yeah,
load
it's
uses,
not
internal
outside,
uses something like that, right?
But we have plenty of symbols that do something special to what appears inside of them. Like if you have
Yes, but
integrate
this
the
isn't
second argument.
inside. This isn't inside. If the whole file, if it started, package begin open bracket, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Todd, are you
Steven,
back?
I think what
Yeah,
Carl
you
is
guys hear
trying
me,
to
right?
say, sorry, can I just get quick comment? What Carl is trying to say that if we have this first pass as a function, then the input for this function might not necessarily be a file. It can be already something parsed to symbols. It just doesn't evaluate and collect certain things.
Okay. All right. Todd, if you want to go ahead and share, you could take over from me.
Right, you guys hear me, right? I'm
Yes,
back
yes,
here.
yes,
Fine.
yes, yes.
Fine. I
Todd,
just had a
What
internet
Todd is
pull up.
already sharing, so we just need to switch to Todd's screen here.
Oh, I see. I don't know what happened.
No,
to
you're
the
not
screen
sharing.
sharing.
You're
Yeah,
not
Steven,
sharing.
you
Please
didn't.
share
Yeah,
again.
yes,
He
yes.
is, he is, he
Okay.
is.
All right. Okay.
All right. So I don't remember what I was saying when I got dropped
Oh,
out,
for
and I
goodness
don't
sake.
know what happened since then.
Well, okay.
The legal
So,
we're talking about the legal syntax, that $$ package export, right?
Okay.
right. So hold on. Let me just understand the whole picture of what these functions are. Okay. And also the single file package. Okay. Can you run through again, please, exactly what is supposed to happen? What does a typical package look like in this setup?
A typical package looks like here's one, right? I don't know if
Can you
people
make
can
it
see
larger,
that.
please?
I'm not even sure how to zoom in. Does anyone know how to
Okay,
zoom in
whatever.
Eclipse?
I can
Command plus.
I can read it, so I guess other people can.
No, it doesn't work.
All right. Okay.
Right. So you have some package export, package scope declarations that declare symbols that will be, various scopes. Then you may have a package import. You have some function definitions. I mean, it's just package scope and package export and
Okay.
package
So
import
what
added
causes
in.
this? Hold on. What causes? So if I say get on this file, what will happen?
You don't say get on this file. Every package has a loader file. That's the thing that you call get on. You just call get
Okay,
foo.
what does the loader
right?
file look like, please?
The loader file just looks like package load.
Well, let me see it. Let me see it.
That's it.
Okay, so that's the name of the file. That's the name of that other file, correct?
No, that is the context. The package load says, I will load the files here, where I am. It just collects all of the files in the package.
But how
and
does it
loads
know
them.
what the file path is?
It has $input file name, right? It knows what
So
where it is.
where is that context? Where is the file for that context relative to the loader file?
The file for that context is right next to the loader file.
Okay, and it has to be. There's no file path. Is that correct?
There's no file path here. You can actually, in some more complicated argument sequences to package load, do that, but that's not really relevant here. This is your typical call. You just name the context, and it just says, okay, all the files, because there's no begin package statements typically in any of the files. So this is where you have to name the context that you're creating. Right. There's no need for begin packages anywhere. This is the one place
so
where the context is named.
Plan here is that basically you never evaluate anything in this package file, in the other file. It is never evaluated. It is only handled through package load, correct or incorrect?
Well, it's only handled through package load. It does get evaluated
No.
during the process.
No. You never press Shift Enter on the other file. Correct or not correct?
Well, that's correct. You don't press Shift Enter on files.
Well, you don't use get.
You don't
Is
use
that
get
correct?
on the other files. You have no. I, as a user of this package, I only know the context. I just say get on the context.
But so
Right.
what? Doesn't
I
matter.
have
Doesn't matter.
no.
I'm just checking. You don't use get on the file, the
Users don't-
context, or anything. Is that correct or is that not correct?
You use get on the context. That's what users do. They call get or needs on your context.
Then what the hell does package load do? I thought
Get?
package load was an alternative to get for package.
No,
files.
it is not. It
Okay,
is
then
not.
explain that, please.
It's the loader file. Look, when I say get sample MPF2, right, that goes to this is a packlet, and so the packlet manager says, oh, I have that. I know where that context is. That context points to this file.
Which
This
file?
loader
Which
file.
file? I'm
The
sorry, which
loader
file?
file.
The loader
The
file.
file that is on the screen now, the loader file.
Okay, that's through a packlet, but you don't need to use packlets for this.
You don't need to use packlets for this at all.
Okay, so
It's
then
just-
explain to me what happens. Explain to me what happens.
Maybe Todd should show the packlet info file that goes with this.
No,
If
no,
that's-
I don't care about that. I want to see what happens without packlets. Right, there are three
Without-
levels. You've got a packlet. You've got this set up in a directory with multiple files, and you've got a single file package. That's the three
right,
levels of using this.
Well, right. I mean, packlets split off as a third one.
I just said that.
When you
I
say
said
when you say
packlets.
get, I'm not. That's not really natural, right? It's really either of those things could be a packlet. Either of those other two formats could be a.
That's
in any
fine. But
case.
that's fine. But okay. Okay.
So fine. So here's what happens. This is just when you say, as I'm a user of, you're a user of my package, which happens to be written in this format, right? Or you say needs of, foo, and then
I'm sorry. What's foo?
foo,
What's
foo
foo?
is the name of the context of this package.
Where is the context of this package? Isn't that the package loader files context? Where is that context defined?
That context is defined here in that package load. It happens inside package load, right? There's no begin package foo or sample
Okay.
MPF2.
All right. How does it
anywhere.
know that sample MPF2 is the file? Is that other file?
I think what you're asking is how does this look up? And it can either be path-based or packlet-based. In the case of a packlet,
I don't want to know about the packlet case. Are you saying that the name of the file is sample mpf2.wl?
No, the name of this file is sample mpf2 loader.wl.
I understand, but what is the name of the file when package load runs? How does it know what file sample mpf2 refers to?
It doesn't actually know it doesn't have to know what file sample mpf2 refers to.
Well, then how the hell does it do anything?
collects, let me finish. It collects all of the files around it and loads them,
How does it
creating
go?
the context.
Okay, so everything in that directory, there are 1,000 files in that directory. It's going to load every file in the directory. Is that correct?
Well, if you have 1,000 files in your package, it will load them all.
No. Wait a second. This is a directory. True or not true?
Well,
no packlets involved.
This file sits somewhere in a directory. Yes,
Okay. Okay.
It
what
is surrounded
file
by
does it
the
load in?
files of the package. The
What
files
file-
that's surrounded.
Okay. What do you mean by surrounded?
I mean, in the same directory or in subdirectories, right?
Okay. So it will load every file in that directory and every subdirectory. Correct?
Pretty much.
No. What's the pretty much? I don't believe in pretty much.
Steven, it's complicated. There's several options to control which files get loaded, which files get skipped,
Okay, the
which order
default
they
is
get loaded
what?
in. The
What is
default
the
is like
default?
all of the files in this directory and so.
All the .wl files in this directory. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's the default. All right. So it's trying to load all of those things. And in this case, it is somehow searching within all those files. So package load somehow magically says, it lets off a bomb in this directory. And the explosion loads every file in that directory, however many there are, even though it's only asking for a particular context here.
It's not asking for package load is not needs or get. It's not saying go find this context. It says create this context based with the files that are around me. That's what it does.
Okay.
It's not like get or needs. There's no, this, you've gotten here via get or needs. What happens inside here is just the internal machinations.
No. And I really don't like this. I mean, the fact is, this is implicitly loading a bunch of random files.
Well, they're not random files. They're the files in your package.
Okay, so presumably this has a second argument that says what files to load. Is that a true statement?
Well, it has a bunch of ways to specify which files.
No, it needs a second argument that can say explicitly what files to load.
It does have a second argument. If you want to give a full list of all of the files, you can do that. No one's ever going to do that. They'll use the other options to control which files.
Well, I mean, you should be able to have whatever is in file names, the wildcards in file names. Right? So
yeah,
you can
right.
say star.wl, for example. Am I making sense?
I'm pretty sure I already.
Well, make sure that that works. Okay, so the conceptually, what's happening is here, you say, and I'm not sure the name is quite right, package load says create this context, and to fill out that context, use these files.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
That's exactly.
Okay, so the name is probably wrong. Just saying that name is wrong. Because it's not loading, its main action is to declare that context and then fill it in with these files. And you're saying the default, the one argument default, is to load all the files in the directory, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because that's not how you normally author a package, right? You create a directory and then you put all the files of your package inside that directory,
right?
Or inside.
But so now
that is what the package is. It's a directory full of files.
Yeah,
and that is
I
exactly
understand. And this file, how do I know what to do with? So what do I do to call this file? How do I activate this file?
Okay. Now, when you say you're talking about like a user of this package?
Yes.
You just say get sample MPF2. Or what you just say get or needs, just like you always did.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Is there some specially named file in this directory then?
No, the directory is named.
This works with the normal context of file name type resolution that we have in the system and in the package system.
But the directory has that resolution. Is that correct? Usually it will be a file that is resolved to the context.
Yeah, that's this. You have to set your package up so that when I type needs sample MPF2, that's the file. I'm the user. I want to load that package. That's all I do.
No. Let me understand. The name of the directory is sample MPF2, correct?
The name of the directory in this case, might or might not be relevant.
No. When I do needs, just let's be clear. Needs of a context name by default resolves that context name normally to a file name, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now you are breaking that.
Fails. No, I'm not breaking that in any way. Nothing is different about needs.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing is changed about the behavior of needs here. This is just, you're just confused because the normal, I couldn't name these files the way I've named them if it wasn't in a packlet. Because the packlet manager, my packlet info file allows me to map.
We're talking about what happens without packlets.
I understand that, but I'm just
so why don't you explain
that
to me? So don't tell me what happens when you have a packlet info file. Tell me what happens
I would do
without
if
that.
I didn't have a packlet info file. If I was just finding this context based on $path, then I would simply have this file would be sample MPF2.wl. It wouldn't be called sample MPF-loader.wl. It would be called sample MPF2.wl. And then the normal context of file name resolution would find this file.
Okay, this file. All right, so you've made this very unclear right here. So that file, the loader file, is the file to which, wait a second, to which the context of file name resolves, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now, then that file magically pulls in by default all other files in the directory, except itself, of course.
Except itself.
Okay? So that's what it's doing by default, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. why is it? Okay, well, I mean, I think it's better that this file doesn't have to have a special name in that directory.
This file does not have to have a special name. I
Okay.
don't know what you mean by that. This file
Well,
can
no,
be
no,
named
because the
anything you
alternative
want.
would be, so the directory can be named anything you want, but what's happening is it is the siblings of this file that are being used as the content for the package, correct?
Yes.
Which is a bit weird, I have to say.
It's not weird at all. This is every package essentially has a loader file already. The thing that context of file name maps the context to. Sometimes it's called init.m, sometimes it's called something else.
No,
They
but
all have loader
with the
files.
init.m convention, you're mapping to the directory, not to the file name.
You map to the file name. Context of
don't.
file name will resolve a context to an init.m file.
How
You
does it do
always
that?
have to resolve to a single file. That's the only thing you
Yes,
can do.
of course
is
it
load
does, but
one
the way it
file.
does that is it uses the directory name, right?
Sure, it uses the full path.
Okay, so wait a second. So what it's doing is it's foo/init.m, right? And if you say needs of foo, it resolves to loading the file foo/init.m. Is that correct?
We have that behavior. Yes, there's some automatic logic
Okay,
inside
so that's
context
what's
of file
happening
name.
there. So let's be clear, that's what's happening. So in that case, it is resolving the name of the context maps to the name of a directory, right?
No, the name of a context maps to a file. I don't know why you keep saying a directory.
Well, because
name
the
of the
place where
context
the foo appears is the directory name.
always maps to a file.
The place where the
There's
foo
always
appears is a directory name, right? The
no,
fact that the
place where the foo appears is typically. It's true that you can have a directory called foo and a kernel subdirectory and an init.wl file inside that. There is logic
right.
that takes a
So
directory name and maps
that's
all of it.
one other scheme for resolving a context to file name, right? Is
Right.
that it is a
Part of the
directory
logic
name, that the
context.
context name is the directory name, and that you have standardized files inside that directory, right?
Yes,
Correct?
you have one standardized
No,
file.
no, I don't want to, I just want to be clear. That is one way to do it, where the directory is what is what the context is used to determine, right?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so let's not be unclear about that. There are two possibilities. I mean, context of file name has logic for finding a file name. In the end, it's going to resolve to a file, but the logic of where that file is the name of the context can appear in the directory name or in the file name, correct?
Yes, depending on how you set it up.
What do you mean, depending on how you set it up?
Well, if you don't have an init.m file,
of course,
then you'd need
of course, we understand.
You have to use like a double context.
Of course,
thing,
I understand that.
Fine.
Okay, so let's go through this again. Okay, in the case where you have resolved to a directory name, foo/init.m or whatever it is, kernel/init.m, right? Where are the payload files in that case? Are they siblings of init.m in that case? They are members of that top level foo thing, and they are siblings of init.m.
Yes.
Correct? Okay, so we got two different schemes for how, for how things will be loaded around the loader file. One is, I mean, as you know, in all cases, they are siblings of the loader
file. There's only
file.
one case. You map something, some logic maps a context to a file name, and that file name gets loaded. If that file calls package load within it, then it scoops up all the files around it.
Oh, no, around is very imprecise. They are sibling files in the same directory.
We have already definitely clarified that. It's sibling files and subdirectory files.
Okay.
As the default.
With the possibility of in that package load, which I don't think is correctly named, the second argument being a file name specification for what those explicit files should be, correct?
Yes, you can specify the complete list in order of the.
No. We need to make sure that the thing you give to file names can be given there, right?
Fine, I understand that. I think I probably support that, but if I don't, I'll make sure that you
okay,
can
all right, fine.
stars.
All right, okay. So in that case, okay, so then this thing is saying take those files, and those files are now just data as far as this is concerned. those files will never be independently evaluated. The only way they will, be seen by the kernel is through package load. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. That's the only thing that loads those files, package load.
Okay.
No, they're not loaded elsewhere. They are loaded, of course, inside package load, but they're not loaded by
No.
anything
I don't
else.
care about the implementation. As far as we're concerned, that could be a data file that contains random CRUD. The fact that it's a parsable file is convenient for other tools, maybe convenient for debugging, but it's not relevant for, it is not, that file is never read by get as far as the user is concerned. I don't care how you implemented it. Is
That's
that correct?
true. Yes, that's correct. All of the files of the package are just those individual files. They're implementation details of the author of the package. I as a caller.
No. That's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking.
No, I think
There is
the
no
answer to the question is
situation
yes.
in which,
yes, Stephen.
okay, if you press Shift Enter on those files,
Well,
right,
I
you
don't
might do
understand
that.
what does that mean?
Those
How do
files
you-
can be notebooks.
If I open them up in the notebook front end and
Yes, and you press
select
Shift Enter.
all and hit
Yeah.
Shift Enter,
Yep.
you can't do that
Why not?
because they're not, those files are not meant to be individually evaluated. They have to be loaded by the loader file, which calls package load. They're
What
not
happens
meant
if
to
they're
be
individually evaluated?
If they're individually evaluated, then you'll get strange. What you'll get is you'll get these messages that I've talked about before, where you're saying, you'll get this case where you're trying to call package export, but you're not in a
No.
two-pass
That's
load
not an adequate
situation.
answer, right? Because if people are actually using this, right, they're going to develop these things. They're often going to be in notebooks. They're often going to want
They're
to debug things.
almost never going to be in notebooks.
Well, I think
That's
you're
not how
wrong.
people
You're wrong
develop
about
packages.
that. You're simply wrong about that. There's a, particularly in these days of the notebook assistant and things like that, notebooks are where people will develop all kinds of stuff. So this has got to work with notebooks. I'm making
I
sense.
understand that. I understand it's got to work with notebooks, but but people.
Don't tell me
if I have
what
a
I don't.
multi-file package.
Yeah, I don't care.
How do I use that in notebook?
You have multiple notebooks in a directory, and that's got to work.
Well, if you have multiple notebooks in a directory and they're acting like .wl files, which they can, then everything just works perfectly fine.
I don't think that's
If
true.
you have multiple notebooks
It's
in a
not
directory and
true
you want to
because
open them as notebooks and shift enter them,
what's that?
that's not going to work.
Okay,
If I make a
it's got to
notebook
do
and I
something.
make
It's got to
initialization
do
cells in
something.
it,
What's it going to do? Your proposal is that it generates a bunch of error messages, right?
yeah, you'll get warnings if you try to just open one of these files and as a notebook and shift enter it.
Yep.
So
okay. All right. Okay.
But that's not really a meaningful thing. People don't. If you have multiple files in one package, multiple implementation files.
Look, this is
correspond to one
obviously silly,
package.
right? Because you're developing something, you're debugging one function. You don't need this whole giant interdependency web. You just want to use that one function. You're going to do this. So it's got to do something that isn't completely crazy. Okay,
It's
so
first of all, this is only developers we're talking. We're not using. We don't have to worry about users doing this.
Well, I
It's
don't
the
agree
people
with
who
you.
are developing packages.
I don't agree with you. I think this is something,
Well,
this is a mechanism which, if we're going to say
Well,
this is intended to be obscure because only super experts will use it, I don't believe in that.
Well, it's not intended to be obscure.
Maybe
but anyway, go ahead.
maybe we can make this more concrete. If you open the front end and you do file new package, right? Because we do have that functionality. Like
If I create a package file, well, I could do that, and I might.
But then we're considering Stephen's thought experiment where we have a single file that does include package export commands. So go ahead and do that. Like if you
yeah,
can
but if I do that, that's a package file. That's not the same thing as a notebook file.
Well,
right? Do
but let's just do
package
it.
File. Yeah,
that one. Yeah, and so now do like package export at the top.
Right. Yeah.
So and then you can run the package to test it out. I think this is what Stephen is talking about. Like you have some code but you also want to use the modern package format, right? So package export of, what was it like? Yeah, if you run that package, then it's running, there's no package load command anymore, right? So it's,
That's right.
so how would that work?
This is the single file package problem that we've been talking about, right? You need something. If there's no call to package load anywhere, which is then you going to have to put some special thing.
So
one,
that
one
you're saying
solution
this,
to this.
what you're saying then, this environment would need a package load button or something. If you want to work in this environment, if you choose to do that, and then that's I think what Steven is.
That's true. If I had a package load button in the UI that says, effectively package load around this, that would work. We'd have to have some, so either some magic thing at the start of the file or something like you just said, a package load button, which is no different than going to another notebook and typing package load of, the file name or something. You can call package load yourself and have this work. It just doesn't work if you shift enter this.
Yeah, I'm just
file.
thinking about the current UX. This is what I think, and Steven can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like the single, right? The single file, or even this can work with multiple files where you do all your editing, not in Eclipse, not in VS Code, but you do it in a notebook environment, right?
Yeah.
And then, that scenario should work, and it should work, sensibly. Like the run package button is not gonna fly here, as far as I can tell.
Right, but it's equivalent. It's a sort of conceptual equivalent to the run package button, the package load thing. A package load button or something could do that. But if I'm using the package editor for my files, which lots of people do, I'm still going to load. If I'm edited this file and I want to run it, test it, I just reevaluate my get, foo.
You would have a separate notebook. So you would have, okay, so like open a new notebook and then you would just type something like.
I just type get foo,
Okay, get. And that would point, and one of the files that's in this system is the loader file, right? The thing, whatever resolves, there's a package load statement there. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So I've got multiple files. One of them is the loader file that calls package load. That's the thing that the context name resolves to. So I just type get foo, and that's the cycle of development. When you're doing package development, you edit your files and then you call get on the context and reload them. I mentioned earlier that
So the package reload individual. You just told me that get isn't what you use. In the case of these package files,
user. Yeah, I'm a user of my package at this point.
Yeah, the notebook on the left is the user, what the user would do, and the everything on the right, like the package export notebook or the package editor, that's the developer, right? The person who writes the code to kind of make.
Yeah, that's the source code for the package. But if I'm reloading my source code, I just call get on the context, just like my users would call get on the context.
Mm-hmm. Now, can you put package was it package load? Yeah, package load. Can you put it in the same file as before, or is that not going to work?
You don't put package load in the same file as your package export statements and all of that. It's not. That's like your loader file. Yeah, that's
okay. So that's a completely distinct. That always has to be a distinct file.
It has to be a distinct file. I can also type. I can just do package load in a session, right?
Yeah, okay.
I can call package load, but that's not what users would do. I, as a developer who want to if I want to reload one context,
the minimum thing is two. Yeah, the minimum thing is 2 files, right? You have the loader file that has the package load statement in it.
So why isn't there a thing if you have a single file package and it's a notebook package, why isn't there a button in that file that says basically activate this file?
Yeah, that's what that's what we discussed.
Well, that's what we're talking about, right? I mean, it's sort of a package load button, in fact, right?
Yeah.
That's what we would need to have
instead of run package, load package.
Yeah.
That's what you're proposing.
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. But I'm not proposing getting rid of run package because I think that that's just sort of that's still a useful thing. People will want to just evaluate the file, right?
But then how does that differ?
The load package.
Functionality-wise, wait a second. What is the difference in functionality between run package and load package in a single file package?
The difference between functionality between run package and load package is that run package just evaluates the file, right? Load package does the first pass on the file and then evaluates the file. Load package is the thing, or package load is the thing that.
Okay, I don't think this name is right. Okay, I think that's part of why we're getting so unbelievably confused.
Well, I am totally open to changing any of these names, but the thing to remember is that package load is not something that users type. Okay, that is only the author of the package writes the word package load. No user will ever call package load. It's part of the implementation of your package. It's not.
I don't care.
Function.
I don't care. I don't care. It's unbelievably confusing. All right, so let's go through again. Let's look at the functions that you're proposing here. Okay, so within this package, and Carlo's point is you can turn this file into an expression. I agree with that point. Right, Carlo? The file that is the package definition file, you can turn it into an expression. Is that your, Carlo? Can you speak up?
Yeah, that was my point. Yes.
It's a list of expressions.
I'm sorry, what?
It's a list of expressions, but yeah.
Well, okay, all right. Okay, you can turn it into a list of expressions. And that list of expressions, I mean, is only processed by this function that is incorrectly called package load.
Yes.
Which doesn't actually load the package. Well, because what you're doing is you say get, and then what does it really do? Describe what it really does.
Package load?
Yes.
It collects up all the files that are going to be read. For each file, it runs the first pass.
What does the first pass do?
The first pass looks for package export, package scope, package import. It looks for those declarations, and it collects various information about the symbols in the file and the symbols named in these declarations, etc. It collects a bunch of information. Nothing ever evaluates in the first pass.
But then does package load do the second pass or not?
Yes.
Does it do the second pass?
After the first pass, yes, it does the second pass, which involves simply calling get on every one of the files and some other things. But it's
got to do a lot of other stuff. It's got to set up a bunch of contexts, etc. It's not just. It doesn't just call get.
No, that's
set up a bunch of.
It does call get.
Right?
Yeah,
I don't care. It doesn't matter. Okay,
not that
doesn't
much.
matter. So,
but it does call get.
Okay, so what it's doing, it is defining this context. When you say package load, the number one thing it's doing is that name that appears in the first argument there could be anything you want, because it's now defining that context.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is not even connected to. What's that?
I was going to say, begin package on that context name gets called inside package load.
Yeah, okay, fine. But the fact is that there are two names running around. There's the name of the file that contains this package load, right? And then there's the context name defined by the package load. Correct?
Yes.
And these can be completely independent.
They can be different or the same.
Well, I don't care that they can be the same. The way you've set it up, they can be different.
Yes,
right?
They can be different.
Now, one could imagine a zero argument form of package load in which it is using the name of the file as the context name. Is that correct?
You could imagine that, but I don't think that's not going to work very well because the name of the file doesn't have to be the name of the context.
I don't care that it doesn't have to be. The default, the simplest case is you name the file according to the context name you want, correct?
Well,
that's what you were doing.
No, I called my file, I used the suffix loader on my.
No, I know you did, but you don't need to do that, right?
Don't need to do that.
But in the model where the original thing, let me think about this for a second. You've got two different things going on. Okay, from the outside, you have to somehow you have to get to this loader file.
Right. And that is the normal context of file name mechanism.
Okay, so
if I can just jump in, I think that we're not focusing on the important stuff here. All of this stuff about the loader file, how the file's found, that's just normal context of file name resolution. Your package always has one file that is its entry point. And almost all packages have a relatively complicated loader file already because they do all sorts of things in their loader files. And I'm just saying, and so that's just normal. That happens. It's just normal context of file name resolution to find your loader file. In this case, the loader file have a call package, and that thing goes off and does the work of collecting up all the files and loading them. But there's nothing special or fancy about the way we find the loader file that calls package load. That's just normal context lookups.
I think you're, whatever, but we need to unravel the whole problem, okay? So, okay, the point is, these files, as you're now defining them, the files are basically data. They're never considered as actual, so, because I'm thinking about them as package notebooks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or files, so, it should be the case that you never use get on one of these subfiles, correct?
Users never use get.
No. You never use get. You never call get on those files.
No, I just
the fact that you have something internally in your code that happens to use get is irrelevant. I don't care.
Fine. When you say you, I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, means a developer
of the.
I don't care about the internal
a user, absolutely.
Right. Okay. So if you were to use get, what's that?
Users only know one thing about your package. It's the context, and that's what they call get on. They don't call get on the individual files.
This is why this stuff is so freaking unusable. I mean, you've got to focus on, okay, the simple cases, simple mental model for the user, etc. Right? This, in theory, everything works this way. Doesn't work out.
But these are tools for package developers, not for users.
Oh, come on.
No, look, I mean, this is, you have hundreds of people who write packages on a daily basis. And
yes, I understand.
We want to make their life easier.
Right, I understand. But
there's
let's have it be a nice, clean design that doesn't have as an excuse, oh, you have to be an expert to use it. Okay?
Right.
All
Well,
right, so
I don't think that you have to be an expert.
Okay,
Anyway, go on. Where are we going?
okay, let's go through this. Okay. You have a file that is never intended to have get run on it by the user,
Yes.
by the
Yes.
developer, whatever. Not, I don't care about what you're doing internally.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Right.
Okay. So, in that file, so I admit I am warming to the idea, although I'm not thrilled about it, and I would prefer some indication in the name that the file can contain things that are essentially just ordinary functions, and that if you were to evaluate them with shift enter evaluation or with get, that they would generate a message, right?
Right.
And I mean, let's think through. Let's go through what all of those functions are. Have you got a list, please, of all the functions you're proposing? All the functions, please.
I
Can
think
you
it was at
scroll
the
up? Can you
top.
go
At the
to
top.
all
I'm
the
doing
functions
that.
that you are proposing?
I'm doing that, Stephen. Sometimes I'm not sitting at my desk. Here we go. This is the three functions, all right? Other than package load, those are the three.
Okay, can you show us how they are used?
Well, let me go to the other one, the presentation notebook then.
But I want to be clear that package load is of a different character than these, because package load is something
Totally different character. Totally
Okay,
different character.
so it's kind of weird that it has a name that's just like these names.
Fine, we can change it however we like, but it is totally different. It's just a normal function.
Okay.
So there's an example of what a modern package format file might look like, minus a bunch of actual definitions.
Okay, so these are effectively declarations. Is that correct? Would be fair to say that those are declarations?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have that term as a definition, but yes, I'd like to call them declarations.
So what does package scope do?
Package scope puts the symbol in a context that's visible of all the files with the package. That's how you share things within your package without making them public.
Okay, what functions? Could you just type question mark declare star? Just hit that, please. Evaluate that.
Yeah, so
What is declare package?
declare package is a sort of obscure.
Just hit it. Let's see the
function
definition, please. Let's see the page. Just click it, please. Click it. Okay, now go to the I button. There. Just go to press the I button.
No, you're
Press
not
the
looking
I
at
button.
me. I don't know. There's no I button. I've got
Yes, there is. At the top of the thing that says symbol, there's an I button. Okay, whatever. Hit that, please. Could you hit that, please?
I've got the.
Evaluate
Are you
that.
not seeing my screen? Are you not seeing my screen? I have the declare package documentation page.
And also, your audio is breaking up, so I assume your Wi-Fi is failing.
You're having network issues, I think, because we're still stuck at where you typed the thing.
Oh.
Oh, now we see it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Just stay within your Wi-Fi range.
Okay. So what is this?
I'm not moving my computer.
Okay. What is this? What is this? Where is it used?
It's the old way to declare autoloads.
What are you saying?
It's actually what happens internally. This is a function that sets up autoload definitions so that when the symbol is evaluated, a context can be loaded automatically, right? It sets up autoload definitions.
So I'm
Users don't
slightly
call
partial to the
directly.
idea of saying that these things like package export, saying something like declare package export, declare package scope, declare package import.
Can I?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but it
Yes.
feels like a verb I would expect the verb to have kind of side effects and or return something, whereas this is really just a symbolic wrapper.
Well, you're saying it should be called package export declaration.
I'm
Is that what
saying
you're
it.
saying?
I'm not. I'm not sure. I'm just saying I'm not sure it should be a verb. I don't think
No,
declaration.
do you understand what I just
Yeah,
said?
yeah, I
I
understand
said
what you're saying.
package
Yeah.
export declaration. That's not a verb.
Yeah, I understand.
So is that
I'm saying
so?
I like it better than declare package because it's not a verb, but I think it's kind of long. But
Who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares? Who cares? Okay. So I mean,
Well, I type that a lot.
I'm sorry. What?
You
Aren't we?
might
Aren't we
type that
done with?
30
Aren't we done with? It's too
40
long to
times.
type.
It seems to me package export declaration. Look, I'm not going to, die on this hill or something. It just seems like putting the word declaration at the end is kind of just extra. It's sort of like a redundant to me, but
Well, it's not redundant if
don't-
it lets people understand what the hell's going on.
what if it was an objective?
yes.
Like,
it does.
what if it was something like exported symbol?
I think we need something that makes it clear it is a different kind of thing. It is a declaration. It is something that isn't part of the main, and actually I think having it be long is not a bad thing, because I think that having something where you can easily see that big long thing is there is not a bad thing. As you scan the
but-
package, it's helpful to be able to see these things.
But Stephen, a lot of this stuff could be solved instead of having like a long and obscure name. We could have like users this assistant thing that if you were to use it in a normal notebook cell, then it would like turn purple, and if you use it in like a context file with the context editor, no, what it's called, sorry, package editor, not context editor, then it would look normal.
Okay, whatever. It's got to have a name that says what it is in a clear way. Okay, having package export and package load be names of the same kind is not going to work because they're very, very different.
Well, package load. Let's put that aside for now, because we can.
I have
that's
to
a
go,
different function. We
unfortunately.
can have.
What about publish symbol or something like that?
That's possible, but I don't know whether that works for the other things.
Expose symbol maybe, or
No.
Yeah, it doesn't work because package import it doesn't work. Publish, I don't think. Right.
I think package export declaration and so on is not a bad way to go. There may be alternatives, but that would be my first attempt. And then we can
All right.
have.
So you had.
Go ahead.
Go on.
Well, then
I was just going to say. So sounds like you're saying that you're warming to the basic principle of this system, where we have these things called declarations.
Yes.
Behave a little funny.
Yes, I'm warming to that, and perhaps
Great.
we can have a user assistance mechanism to change colors for them or something.
Right, that's a great idea. I think we should definitely do that. We can certainly issue warning messages anytime one of these things is used improperly.
Okay, yeah, warning messages on evaluation if they're used not in the right, if they're used in a pure get.
No, I mean, if I get your package backtick, and in your package you have done something like package export mapped over some list of symbols, then you made a mistake in your package, and I'll see a message that says that this thing was someone used package export incorrectly. Right?
What?
That's the idea, right? If I as a programmer make a mistake and use package export in a way that is not
in a way the way
work,
you're using get on it, then when you're using get on it, then it will make an error.
No, that's well, if I'm using get on one of the packages individually,
yeah.
Then it could also generate a message. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, I guess I'm agreeing with the general outline here.
Should we have a follow-up meeting, Stephen, with the names?
What's that?
Do you want to have a follow-up meeting about the names?
We're going to have a follow-up meeting with the names, and I also want to see the precise syntax of all of these things. I mean, I think.
Yeah, I haven't, fleshed that out because I haven't even got approval on the overall design. But Stephen, I'm going to go with package export declaration in my next design. Do you have a suggestion for package load? And you got it?
Let me think about that for a second. Let me think for a second. It's probably not terrible with this whole setup.
What about create package?
That's not right. Not right.
But it's not really a create. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just
I mean,
throwing
it
random
really
things out there.
does load the
I'm
package.
brainstorming here.
Yeah, I think it's right.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
No, that's good.
Okay, with this setup, now that I understand that package export and package load were utterly different kinds of functions, then, you know, I'm okay, I think. But let's come back again and look at this one more time
Sure.
and look at the detailed option, detailed all the arguments to all these functions, etc.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
And get a user assistance suggestion. Make sure we understand the user assistance suggestions and things like the load package. I don't know how we explain the difference between run and load. I mean, I would say run file and load as package. Load as package. Did you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, because something, right? And something I make a point in this elsewhere in this presentation that there's like zero cost to running the first pass if it's not necessary. It's not zero. It's very fast. It's fast to run the first pass. So if users click load as package and they're not using any of these constructs, it'll be fine. It's not going to cause.
Well, I don't think that.
So
I think we're going to have to talk about that because that's going to be confusing to people who aren't using this whole mechanism.
Well,
Okay,
but if you
gotta go.
just have a
gotta
load
go.
as package button and it works.
Okay, talk to you guys soon.
All right, great.
Okay, bye.
Bye.